Now we come to the next sutta, 147, Cularahulovada Sutta, the shorter discourse of advice to Rahula. This is also found in Majjhima Nikaya 35.121. Thus have I heard. On one occasion, the Blessed One was living at Savatthi in Jeta's Grove, Anathapindika's spa. Then while the Blessed One was alone in meditation, a thought arose in his mind thus: the states that ripen in deliverance or liberation have ripened in Rahula. Suppose I were to lead him on further to the destruction of the taints. Then when it was morning, the Blessed One dressed, and taking his bowl and outer robe, went into Savatthi for alms. When he had walked for alms in Savatthi, and had returned from his alms round, after his meal he addressed the Venerable Rahula thus: Take your sitting cloth with you, Rahula. Let us go to the blind man's grove to pass the day. Yes, Venerable Sir, the Venerable Rahula replied, and taking his sitting cloth with him, he followed close behind the Blessed One. Stop here for a moment. As you all know, this Venerable Rahula is the son of the Buddha. And the Buddha thought it's time for him to attain destruction of the taints. Destruction of the taints or destruction of the asavas means liberation or attainment of arahanthood. We find from the suttas generally the style of lifestyle of monks during the Buddha's time was once the sun comes up, once dawn comes, then they go and beg for their food. After they have come back from their alms round, they eat their food. After they eat, then they find a secluded place, a quiet place to pass the day in meditation. So here, the Buddha asked Rahula to follow him to the blind man's grove. Now on that occasion, many thousands of deities followed the Blessed One, thinking, today the Blessed One will lead the Venerable Rahula further to the destruction of the taints. Stop here for a moment. These deities, these devas and devis, they like to listen to the Dhamma. So whenever there's a chance to listen to the Dhamma, they will follow to listen. Then the Blessed One went into the blind man's grove and sat down at the root of a certain tree on a seat made ready. And the Venerable Rahula paid homage to the Blessed One and sat down at one side. The Blessed One then said to the Venerable Rahula, Rahula, what do you think? Is the I permanent or impermanent? Impermanent, Venerable Sir. Is what is impermanent suffering or happiness? Suffering, Venerable Sir. Is what is impermanent suffering and subject to change, fit to be regarded thus? This is mine, this I am, this is myself. No, Venerable Sir. Rahula, what do you think? Are forms permanent or impermanent? Impermanent, Venerable Sir. Is what is impermanent suffering or happiness? Suffering, Venerable Sir. Is what is impermanent suffering, a subject to change, fit to be regarded thus? This is mine, this I am, this is myself. No, Venerable Sir. Similarly, with eye consciousness, eye contact, and then any feeling, any perception, any volition, any consciousness that arise with eye contact as condition, permanent or impermanent. Impermanent, Venerable Sir. Is what is impermanent suffering or happiness? Suffering, Venerable Sir. Is what is impermanent suffering and subject to change, fit to be regarded thus? This is mine, this I am, this is myself. No, Venerable Sir. So you see, this form of questioning is quite a standard form that the Buddha uses to make the disciple to see that all these things that we cling to, the I, and then the forms, and then the I consciousness that arises, the eye contact, the feeling, perception, volition, consciousness that arise from the eye contact. All these we cling to as I and mine, to see them as impermanent, suffering, and not fit to be regarded as I and mine. Similarly, Buddha asked Rahula, Rahula, what do you think? Is the ear permanent or impermanent? And he says, impermanent, Venerable Sir. Is what is impermanent suffering or happiness? Suffering, Venerable Sir. Is what is impermanent suffering and subject to change, fit to be regarded thus? This is mine, this I am, this is myself. No, Venerable Sir. And then Are sounds permanent or impermanent? Impermanent, Venerable Sir. Is what is impermanent suffering or happiness? Suffering, Venerable Sir. Is what is impermanent suffering and subject to change, fit to be regarded thus? This is mine, this I am, this is myself. No, Venerable Sir. Similarly, is ear consciousness permanent or impermanent? Impermanent, Venerable Sir. Similarly, the same line of questioning. And then also, is ear contact permanent or impermanent? Is feeling, perception, volition, consciousness that arise with ear contact permanent or impermanent? Then similarly, for the nose, is nose permanent or impermanent? Is sound permanent or impermanent? Is nose consciousness permanent or impermanent? Is nose contact permanent or impermanent? Feelings, perceptions, volition and consciousness that arise from nose contact permanent or impermanent, etc. And similarly, for tongue, in the same way, is tongue permanent or impermanent? Are taste permanent or impermanent? Is tongue consciousness permanent or impermanent? Is tongue contact permanent or impermanent? Any feeling, any perception, any volition, any consciousness that arise from tongue contact permanent or impermanent? Then is the body permanent or impermanent? And similarly, is touch permanent or impermanent? Is body consciousness permanent or impermanent? Is body contact permanent or impermanent? Any feeling, any perception, any volition, any consciousness that arise from body contact permanent or impermanent? And lastly, is mind permanent or impermanent? And he says, impermanent, Venerable Sir. Are mind objects permanent or impermanent? Is mind consciousness permanent or impermanent? Is mind contact permanent or impermanent? Are any feeling, any perception, any volition, any consciousness that arise with mind contact as condition permanent or impermanent? Impermanent, Venerable Sir. Is what is impermanent suffering or happiness? Suffering, Venerable Sir. Is what is impermanent suffering and subject to change, fit to be regarded thus? This is mine, this I am, this is myself. No, Venerable Sir. Stop here for a moment. So you see here, the Buddha takes the trouble to repeat again and again this same line of questioning. Each sense base, you find, each sense base, there are 5 things that he asks. For example, you take the eye. The eye is an internal sense organ. Then secondly, external sense organ forms. Thirdly, the consciousness that arises from that sense organ. Fourthly, the contact. Fifthly, any feeling, any perception, any volition, any consciousness that arise from contact. So each sense organ, there are 5 things. And each one of these 5 things, he asks 3 questions. Permanent or impermanent? Is what is impermanent suffering or happiness? Is what is impermanent suffering and subject to change, fit to be regarded thus? This is mine, this I am, this is myself. So for each sense base, you have 5 objects multiplied by 3 questions, so you have 15 questions. And because there are 6 bases, so you have 15 questions times 6 base, so you have 90 questions. So Rahula has to sit there and answer 90 questions, just to make the point that all these are impermanent, and because they are impermanent, they are a source of suffering, and not fit to be regarded as I and mine, or this is mine, this I am, this is myself. Seeing thus, Rahula, a well-taught noble disciple becomes disenchanted with the eye, disenchanted with forms, disenchanted with eye consciousness, disenchanted with eye contact, and disenchanted with any feeling, any perception, any volition, any consciousness that arise with eye contact as condition. Similarly, he becomes disenchanted with the ear, disenchanted with sounds, disenchanted with ear consciousness, disenchanted with ear contact, disenchanted with any feeling, any perception, any volition, any consciousness that arise with ear contact as condition. He becomes disenchanted with the nose, disenchanted with odors, disenchanted with nose consciousness, disenchanted with nose contact, disenchanted with any feeling, any perception, any volition, any consciousness that arises from nose contact. He becomes disenchanted with the tongue, disenchanted with taste, disenchanted with tongue consciousness, disenchanted with tongue contact, disenchanted with any feeling, any perception, any volition, any consciousness that arises from tongue contact. He becomes disenchanted with the body, disenchanted with tangibles or touch, disenchanted with body consciousness, disenchanted with body contact, disenchanted with any feeling, any perception, any volition, any consciousness that arises from body contact. He becomes disenchanted with the mind, disenchanted with mind objects, disenchanted with mind consciousness, disenchanted with mind contact, disenchanted with any feeling, any perception, any volition, any consciousness that arises with mind contact as condition. Being disenchanted, he becomes dispassionate. Through dispassion, his mind is liberated. When it is liberated, there comes the knowledge, it is liberated. He understands birth is destroyed, the holy life has been lived, what had to be done has been done. There's no more coming to any state of being. Stop it for a moment. So here again, the Buddha, you can see the repetition, each sense base, 5 objects, and then after that, to make him see, to make him disenchanted with all these, then he says, being disenchanted, he becomes dispassionate. This disenchanted, another word, another translation, you can see use, is wearied, tired of it, wearied, and then becomes dispassionate. What's another word for dispassionate? Cool, in the sense, no more passionate about these things, worldly things. And when he's cool, his mind is liberated. That is what the Blessed One said. The Venerable Rahula was satisfied and delighted in the Blessed One's words. Now while this discourse was being spoken, through not clinging, the Venerable Rahula's mind was liberated from the taints. And in those many thousands of deities there arose the spotless, immaculate vision of the Dhamma. All that is subject to arising is subject to cessation. That's the end of the sutta. So you see, these devas and devis, they like to listen to the Dhamma because they have a clearer mind than us. And they can understand more easily. They have a lot of blessings. They are very happy beings, being in the heavenly realm. You need that happiness within for the mind to calm down. That's why the Buddha always stresses that in one of the first things to practice in the spiritual path, in the holy path, is to be careful of our three karmas, our bodily actions, our speech, and our mental thoughts. When we are very careful with this, that means we have to have a sense, this hiri ottappa, sense of shame and fear of wrongdoing. So if you have this sense of shame and fear of wrongdoing, you're always looking inward and observing your karmas. The Buddha said, before you do anything, you must consider what I'm going to do. Is it going to harm anyone? If it's going to harm anyone or annoy anyone, I should not do, or it harms myself. And then while you are doing also, you should observe. And after you have done that karma also, you should reconsider. Sometimes certain things, some people, they don't take the trouble to guard their karmas in this way. So certain things they do, they think it's not important, and they annoy other people, they hurt other people, so it harms them back. Their conscience is not so clear, so their mind cannot calm down. Sometimes you can see small things that, to some people it's small things, but it's not good for the doer. Just like you see some people, when our car park is empty, sometimes people who are more sensitive, they come, they dare not park in the car park, they just park the car under the tree or in the open. But those who are less sensitive, they see the car park is open, without asking anybody, they go and park the car there. That shows not sensitive. So this happened a few days ago, as all of you know. So you can see that's why some people are very likable, some people are not likable. It's a reaction. To some people, it's a small thing, but I mean, if it doesn't harm us, it's a small thing. But the person who does the careless action, it harms him. So here it says that in the many thousands of deities there arose a spotless, immaculate vision of the Dhamma. All that is subject to arising is subject to cessation. This is another way of saying they attain stream entry. So you can see quite clearly from here, stream entry is usually attained by listening to the Dhamma. They listen to the Dhamma and they attain stream entry. So this way of questioning is the I permanent or impermanent? Is what is impermanent, suffering or happiness, etc. This is quite a popular way the Buddha teaches the Dhamma. Tonight I'll stop at these two suttas now because tomorrow there is a more detailed explanation of this which I find is very good. So the next sutta is very, very important. So I want to leave it for tomorrow. Probably tomorrow we can do two suttas. So here he only says because some these sense bases and sense objects, sense consciousness, contact, etc., feeling, etc., all impermanent. So they are source of suffering. And because they are source of suffering, you should not regard them as this is mine, this I am, this myself. But in the next sutta, it explains a bit more about this impermanent nature. Okay, anything to discuss? Yes, devas generally engage, are obsessed with sensual pleasure because life is so good there. However, many of them are spiritually mature, and because they are spiritually mature, their time is right. So when a Sammasambuddha appears in the world, and they know. So because of their good karma, this spiritual maturity, they want to listen to the Dhamma. And the attainment of this stream entry, to me, generally, I think that's the most they can attain, generally, stream entry. Because they are not quite inclined to meditate. They just want to enjoy heavenly pleasures. So listening to the Dhamma is the most they can do. Only those anagamins, when they are reborn in the Suddhavasa heaven, some of them may practice. But even then, they practice also. They don't practice like the Bodhisattva. They don't strive very hard, and They in the suttas it is mentioned that devas don't attain arahanthood. Arahants are only found in the human realm. So, like the anagamins, after the Suddhavasa heaven, when they pass away, they just enter Nibbana without going through the arahant stage. So it needs this spiritual maturity for them to want to listen to the Dhamma, just like human beings. human beings, many people have the opportunity to meet the Dhamma, but many of us, after meeting the Dhamma, many humans, they don't make any further effort to investigate further or to renounce and to become a monk or nun. So only those who make the effort to investigate the Dhamma and practice according to the suttas, only those are the ones who are spiritually mature. They're ready to leave the round of rebirths. So I think it's the same whether in the heavenly realm or in the human realm. You need that spiritual maturity before you are interested in the Dhamma. Come and go what? Depends on the level of heaven. It is stated in the suttas that when the world comes to an end, it's due to the contraction of the world system, and the stars come closer and closer together until they all collapse into one huge star. So the earth will burn, and then these humans who know that the world is coming to an end, they will meditate, and they are reborn in the second jhana heaven, and this fire will consume right up to the first jhana heaven. That means the Brahma heaven. That is this place where Brahma resides, the first jhana heaven. So the second jhana heaven is so far away that the fire cannot reach there. And it's also mentioned in the sutta that the Buddha in the flesh body, with the flesh body, can fly as far up to the Brahma heaven only. So the others are too far away. So the sensual desire realm, heavens, the 6 heavens in the sensual desire realm, they are not too far away, but generally they don't come to the human world unless they know there's somebody like an Arahant, some Buddha, then only they come. Those that are nearest to us are the devas under the 4 great heavenly kings, Chatu Maharajika, the lowest heaven. Those are nearest to us. Others are a bit further away. Yes, because in the Shuddhavasa heaven, all of them are anagamins. So that's why they are especially interested in the Dhamma. So among the other heavens, you can say there are less Aryans. So less people interested in the Dhamma, less Devas and Devis interested in the Dhamma.
From the Sutta 125 on page 124, it says that he develops the investigation the energy and mindfulness perspective.
This one is the making the effort to practice after understanding. You see, when these are all mentioned in the Samyutta Nikaya suttas. under the Bojjhanga chapter, the Buddha says, when you draw near teacher, then you have to show respect and all these things. And then the teacher will teach the Dhamma. So when you listen to the Dhamma and you pay attention, that is the first factor, recollection of the Dhamma, the mindfulness factor, mindfulness of the Dhamma. Then after that you investigate the Dhamma. This is the second factor. And once you understand, you investigate and you understand the Dhamma, then you put forth energy to meditate. Put forth energy to practice the Dhamma and to meditate. Then that will bring you the fourth factor, which is the delight, enlightenment factor. This delight you only get in the first jhana. That shows you have attained the first jhana. And subsequently, you get this tranquility factor, which is, you can say, the second or the third jhana. Then the concentration, enlightenment factor. In the suttas, concentration generally refers to the fourth jhana. So once you have the fourth jhana, you have equanimity, enlightenment factor. So all these 7 factors. Okay, let's end here tonight.